6:35, we have a quorum. Missing our Mr. McDonald, Ms. Pickett, Mr. Marano, and Mr. Pauls. All right, we're going to postpone citizens' participation. Town administrator? No. Since he's not here, is the recycling committee here? Anybody from recycling?
Yes.
Sorry? Recycling?
Yes.
All right, you asked to speak for us tonight. Are you representing them? Or?
I'm representing the committee and the coordinator, yes.
Would you please come up? Being guest, Mr. Andrews is not here for the time being. We might as well start our business. I apologize for the delay.
My name is Earl Russell, and I'm a volunteer. I've been acting as assistant to the coordinator and the recycling committee for about 3 years. And the reason we asked for time tonight, we had a recent meeting with the Board of Selectmen, and they were a little concerned because we had indicated that the financial situation was such that the center would probably close late in 2012 or early in 2013 because of funds. And we're here 2 reasons to show you what we require for funds, what is required to run the center, and to find out what we have to do to get them increased or what the alternatives are.
Okay. You said you had a document for us?
Yes,
If you want to
I do.
pass it out. Hope you have any copies.
Somewhere. I figured I wasn't going to be on for a few minutes yet. Made 6 copies.
That's easier one left for that.
We got enough. That's just a brief overview of where the money is spent that we use, where it comes from. We have a budget currently in what we call the town budget of $5,000. And you can see from the bottom line, it costs us $11,436 to run the place. We've had a shortfall for a number of years, and we funded it through our revolving fund, which is funded by returnable cans and bottles, white goods, batteries, tires, and all that. Okay, and you can see from the numbers there what the annual income of the revolving fund has been, what we estimate fiscal year 12 to be. And if you add that together with the 5,000, we still come up with a shortfall. But that won't kill us this year, because several years ago there was a big grant given by Walmart. That was way before my time, of which part was used to buy the containers that are at the center, and we've been using it every year to fund the additional shortfall. We're running out. It's running out. We had a little crisis earlier, which we weren't able to reconcile the accounts, but that's taken care of now. Okay, so we thought we had lost $2,600. We didn't. It was there. We just had been deposited to the wrong funds. Long story short. So where we are right now, if we don't get the additional funding, we estimate somewhere around March 1st, 2013, we won't have enough money to operate the drop-off center. And that's assuming that the income continues as it has been and everything else goes as planned.
How much additional are you looking to add to the budget?
$3,000.
Sounds like you're pretty much
$3,000 we were asking for. We asked for it last year. It was taken under consideration, and I assume, well, we didn't get it, so I assume that's what happened to the consideration. But we had enough money to carry us through. And if we don't get any additional funds, by 2013 March, give or take a month, we won't have any money to pay the bills. Simple.
Any members have any questions?
Yes.
Greg?
I'm curious, when we look at the income that you have, how much of that is for cans and bottles and that sort of thing? And how much is fees that are charged?
See if I can give you a breakdown of that.
I'm just,
I don't know on a percentage basis. The cans and bottles are a huge part of it.
yep,
I'm trying to think of the actual number. I should have had that number in mind, but I don't.
no,
The only other fees we have are for white goods, tires, and batteries.
yep,
And the white goods have dropped off recently. The returnables have increased up until the last couple of months. And we average about $260, $280 a month income, of which probably 150 of it is cans and bottles. The rest would be white goods, tires, batteries, and whatever other donations anyone chooses to drop in one of the cans, which is not much.
Now, Mr. Chairman, all your folks are volunteers, aren't they?
I'm sorry?
Most of your folks are all
All
volunteers?
volunteers,
All
except
volunteers.
for the person that is contracted to act as recycling coordinator, which is Marilyn Russell.
Okay,
And that's the biggest part of the expense, is paying that
yeah.
fee, or contracted fee, or at one time it was a salary years ago.
Mhm.
And in the selectmen meeting, someone said, that seems like a lot of money, what do you get? So I put the job description on the back there for you to show you what you get for that
Right.
$8,000.
Well, you folks do a great job, right? You really do.
Everything else is volunteer. Gasoline, trucks that haul, everything, wherever they go, white goods, cans and bottles, and labor to run is all donated. No one's complaining about that, it's just that we're gonna need some money down the road.
Yeah, I hear you.
Mr. McDonald?
First, I want to apologize for being a little late. Do you collect metal down there other than white goods?
Yes, any metal you wanna bring in, we take.
What do you do with it?
We have someone who hauls it away,
So you
for
don't-
nothing,
For nothing?
absolutely. They used to be that we had a contract with the city of Bourne, it was hauled to Bourne, and it cost us money to get rid of it.
It might be something, we could explore with them. I don't know. I happen to know just a little bit about the.
You know, I'm into the metal business too, a little bit,
Yeah,
just copper, brass, all that stuff.
Right.
But I really don't feel like hauling all that away,
And no, you probably don't have it. I mean, we have in this town right now, there's Atlantic Recycling in town.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Right, and DMW is the company that owns them. Just, maybe we can have this conversation another time, but we might be able to generate some
Cash.
revenue from the metals, and maybe instead of it be costing money to have someone, or I know he hauls it away for free.
Yeah, it doesn't cost anything to get a haul, and we charge everybody no matter what they bring in.
Right.
Like a lawnmower, $5.
It's worth a conversation later.
Absolutely,
Okay.
I agree.
Any other questions? Give his name, okay, we're all set.
Can I have just one thing?
Fine, I'm sorry.
How much, I mean, years ago, when they stopped the town, removal of trash, and everybody had to have their own contractor, okay? How much, I mean, I don't even know if you know how to answer this. Are the contractors in this town removing their own recycling? Or are they providing that service, or are our citizens having to take it to the recycling center?
Well, a little bit of both. Most people don't know or are not aware that if they contact their hauler, they're required to pick up recycling for no additional charge. And I don't think that's happening very often, but it is happening in some cases. The other big problem is all the trailer parks, apartment complexes, none of that's being recycled. That contract is between the hauler and the owner of that facility, and it's considered a business. So they don't feel they have any obligation to pick up recycling. And that's a huge amount of the people that come into our place. I can't tell you how many. We're gonna do a survey and find out.
It seems like just an observation, it seems like it's being a burden on the town, and that the haulers aren't meeting their obligation, or they're not promoting the benefit of recycling. They're just leaving it to the town to take care of it. It's just my opinion.
Mr. McDonald, could I impose upon you?
You could
To work with the
probably,
recycling committee
Yes,
to
I would-
examine some other potential revenues.
sure, no, not a problem. I
Right,
think
there's
that's,
a possibility of dealing with some, not necessarily next year, but even the years beyond.
right.
Because it looks like you'll be, you're talking about 3,000 for the current year, but beyond that, it looks like 6,000, 6,500, or even maybe even higher.
We're looking,
I'd
we're
ask
asking
Mr.
for,
McDonald to represent us and to meet with your committee and to look at other possibilities that he may know, because he is in the metal business, in the scrap metal business.
yeah, but I'm here to tell you, that's not gonna solve the problem. But, okay, I don't wanna be negative.
That's a start.
Whatever you
It's a
wanna do
start.
is fine with me.
No,
I'm here to
So
show
I'm
you
going
what
to
we're
appoint him
facing.
as your liaison, which means he'll meet periodically with your individuals to find out what's happening there. In the meantime, we're just starting the budget process,
Right,
all right? We really haven't even started to settle with the town administrator yet. So during the course of our deliberations on that, we'll definitely take this under consideration. You've given us ample information, I think it's great.
okay.
We appreciate it, thank you very
Well,
much.
what else, what is the next step? Do we have to do anything else?
The next step for you is literally nothing, unless we ask you back if there's a point that we need clarified. We have to go through the whole budget and decide
Okay.
what we think.
Well, that should be-
Actually, it's the town administrator that sets the budget.
Yeah, I know.
And then we either agree, disagree, make recommendations to the advice to the town committee, sorry, not the town committee, the town meeting. That's what we think should happen.
Should we work with you or any of your people on this?
Mr. Sullivan to my right.
Yeah, we met Derek before, remember that?
Collecting information and.
Good.
Good.
I sent him a copy of this earlier before the meeting, do you remember that?
Great.
Right, and Marilyn and I
Okay.
have been in contact.
I appreciate your visit, you did a good job
Very
of
good.
lobbying, did a very good job of lobbying.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for your
Okay.
time.
Town administrator,
Go down,
welcome.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, and I apologize for being a couple minutes late. I'm sure you know the Action Committee had met at 5, and they are still debating upstairs, so I once again apologize to the committee for being a couple minutes late. If I could go down the list, Mr. Sullivan is going to bring us up to speed with regards to item A, 3A, police budget overtime follow-up. Derek?
You should all have in the packets are put together for you this document right here. It's going to be, there's really no title to it, but it's a breakdown of employee, their grades, anniversary date. But really the main thing on this is to give you an idea of what the Quinn bill, what they receive for educational incentives. You'll see the base salary, then the EDU percent would be the educational incentive percent. Next column would be the actual monetary amount, and then the last column would be their gross salary. It's broken down by detectives, sergeants, patrolmen, administration. You know, there were names in there before. You can have it with names if you want. Doesn't really matter. But if you turn to the second page on the back there, first, you'll see the MOU. That was from their contract. On the very bottom, starred, you'll see the Quinn bill. So it's telling you what they receive. So an associate's degree is worth 10% of their salary, a bachelor's degree 20%, and a master's degree 25% of their salary. And the next page will also give incentive pay. That was for this was, I believe, pre-Quinn bill benefits.
Is there a combination, I'm sorry,
Yes.
is there a combination of the Quinn bill and incentive pay, or are this two separate items? Are they added together in any form or
Now,
fashion?
you wouldn't get both of them.
That's
You
what I'm
You
asking.
wouldn't be able to double dip on there. The next page would be the summary of the overtime hours, and I believe you had received this before, but the difference now is there's an actual salary cost attached to it, so you can see it in a dollar's value. So I'll give you the category. What are the officers doing? Court, prisoner watch, anywhere from, I don't have an extra copy. DEA,
Would you like the number of
Always have one of those folders.
They're on top, Mr. Cruz.
full packet
Right there, yeah.
Anywhere from assaults and such, going all the way down. You'll see at the very bottom, there's a category called shifts. That's actually that would be normal overtime. So if somebody calls out, if there's an officer that's injured and isn't going to be in work for any amount of time, that'd be more what you'd think about as the regular overtime. I know that would be there's a question on that, so. And you can see that this is from a period of January 1st, 2011 through the December 31st, 2011. So
Now that-
calendar year.
Correct me if I'm wrong, that would relate to about 4 pages down, you have one that's highlighted, or I have one that's highlighted, coverage for vacation, holidays, sick leave, and personal days. Those, and it's talking about 1,500, almost 1,600 shift hours.
Is that the back, the very back there?
It could be on your,
I don't believe that's in,
it's not in your package?
no,
No,
no.
All right.
That's part of it.
The original package we received from the chief has a page, which is coverage for vacations, holidays, sick days, and personal days. All right, and it has the hours, it ties to the hour schedule, all right, that 404,000. So if you go back to the paperwork that we've received previously, you'll be able to see that.
I just love the fact that the people that were most concerned about this particular issue aren't here. Sorry, I said to get that right out.
I'm sorry?
I said that those on the committee who were most concerned about this particular situation or issue are not present. That's all I'm saying.
Yes, that's true. And but the other side too is that when going forward in our deliberations, there's something to look at on here, especially the sick time coverage turns out to be all overtime.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand that. I have to honestly say, in the business world, you wouldn't do that. You'd have another person or something, you'd have some fill-ins. I understand all the other problems with benefits and all that, all right? But we're actually paying a premium and we're paying the sick time, plus we're paying a premium to cover the sick time, all right? And it would seem to me that there's a potential. But I'm gonna leave that conversation for later. It's not,
Mr.
I'm
Chairman,
not
if I
gonna
could,
ask you to do that tonight.
just for the edification of the committee, because I know Chairman Cruz has looked at this very closely with the administration. We have a new horizon with new contract negotiations. What we have in older contracts are some very less than clear language on a lot of issues. I've also issued directives to the chief to look at his overtime and look at ways that we schedule vacation time. Some things you can't quite control, like court time, because you get the phone call and you have to show up and provide testimony or whatever. But we are looking very closely, not only in this department, but in other town departments across the board, because overtime is something that I think is a management responsibility to have good, solid tools in place to be used at the appropriate time to keep it under control. And so I think you'll see in future collective bargaining agreements, as we bring them forward, some clearer language as it relates to how overtime will be assigned and how this cost item can be reduced significantly, I might add.
Okay. Again, you don't need to cover it tonight. I just wanted to make sure it was the dollar information we asked for.
Yep.
We received it, gives us a chance to analyze it, and the committee will discuss this as we go forward on the budget. I think you're right, and if necessary, we might ask the chief to come in and explain to us, things that we obviously don't know because we're not policemen.
Sure.
All right, we may ask him to comment on that.
I just want to ask a quick question, and I don't know if the town administrator can answer this, maybe the chief has to answer it. As far as the contract, the present contract is concerned, where sick time is available, et cetera, I know in my previous employment, it was all controlled by union, okay, as far as, if it was a sick day, they had to fill in with a regular person first. And if that wasn't available, then it went by seniority as to who got the overtime. Now, are we doing that, or is it an automatic seniority overtime issue? That's what I would,
It is the first part, because we just put in place 5 new cadets and 2 transfers from the town of Falmouth. So, obviously, they're working at a lower base pay, so as we use those individuals, but it is based on seniority, and it is based on the collective bargaining agreement that goes back some time. I would just also remind the committee that the town won an arbitration case in Boston before the Joint Labor Management Council on issues like this that we put forward, and that decision was made this past year. The idea is to move forward from that point, but to get clearer language in from everything from the use of sick time and completing tour of duty, which is also an important aspect, because it would make sense to complete your regular tour of duty for the week before you would be offered overtime, in the town administrator's opinion. And we need to work harder at this going forward. But as you know, just to remind you, we're settled up to the beginning of fiscal 2012. We are in negotiations. I sent all the unions notice that the town is anxious to start to discuss issues like this with them going forward, so that we can really get clearer as to what needs to be done in those agreements and get to the root of what Bonnie's pointing out.
Before you go on,
If we could move on to the audit management, sorry, Mr. McDonald.
Just one more. And again, this is just my lack of municipal accounting coming out here. The off-duty details, where it's 100% reimbursed by contractors, that's going into the general fund, is that correct?
What
There is
happens
another-
here?
I have another document that has a notation that I have the accounts for you, okay? And it appears that it's going into an account, both the expense and the revenues are going into the same account, so it does net out. I'd like to talk to Mr. Cole before we address that issue, to make sure.
That was,
I don't know that the town administrator would necessarily have the accounting answer on that. It's
Well,
not
let's
something
wait on
you would
that.
say what they make.
that'll be fine.
But I did see a footnote today on another document that I had received, so I apologize to the three, I didn't have time to make a copy of
I
it.
lost my police tab. Man.
We want one like
Audit management
Audit
letter?
management letter, Mr. Chairman, I'll continue to work with the finance committee as well, closely with the board of selectmen, with regards to audit management letter issues. Most of them, by the way, I don't have a copy with me, but are enclosed in a 10-page document that's color-coded, and all the management issues from fiscal 2009, 10, and 11 are included on that document. I'll make sure you get copies of it, as well as, I might add, just real quick, the financial management review that the town asked for and received back in June of 2010. So there's 56 items that are now in one place that we have provided to not only to our staff, the board of selectmen. Selectman Mike Schneider asked that it be part of my town administrator's report from a week-to-week basis. But those management letter items really encompass the direction that Justin Cole has taken us with regards to town accounting and his reconciliation with the treasurer's collector's office, and working out policies and procedures that go forward with that. And so I'm open to any suggestions from the committee or from the board of selectmen. In the end, it is the town administrator's hand that writes the response to the management law that says, this is how we're doing on everything from disaster recovery. If we get hit by a hurricane, how would we pay our bills? What type of function could we expect from the town accountant or from the treasurer collector to, once again, other areas of concern that were in the audit management letter. Those have been included on that worksheet. I'm happy to get the committee copies of them.
The reason why this came up on the agenda is those of us who have been in the business world and had to answer to the audit management letters also know that we were not the ones that answered the audit management letters. It was answers by the people that the letter was addressed to. When we received the final copies from Powers and Sullivan, there were no responses. All right, that we saw. Normally what happens is they make their recommendation, you respond because you're measured the next year as to whether or not you completed the response. If those responses are not there, there seems to be no reply. The letter went to the Board of Selectmen. We were wondering what their participation in responses, if any, was going to be. And, you know, will there in fact be responses as to the points that are in the Powers and Sullivan audit?
And there are responses in it in terms of what the current plans are for the items that were listed in the management letter. And
It gives a status, but it doesn't
Well,
really give.
that's our response as of that time, because if I could just harken back, unless we get H.G. Wells to come to one of these meetings and we go into a time machine, I can't go back in time to solve something that's written up through the end of fiscal 2011. So, yes, you are correct. On a normal audit cycle, we would close down the books on June 30th for, say, fiscal 2012. We have an account payable period for 15 days, and through probably the end of August, sometime around the Labor Day period, we'd be really wrapping things up and asking the audit team in. They'd come in. We'd have some set of financials, like in October, to be able to go back through the management letter and say, here are the things that the auditors have pointed out, and here are our action plans. So I think the timelines got kind of scrambled, and I'm happy to work with you and the committee on any suggestions as it relates to response for the
I think our concern is we have 6 months to go, and we're not seeing, like I said, in writing, any action plan that will be measured against. All right, yet we will be measured against it when they perform the audit and give us their opinion next October. We know that's gonna happen.
Well,
And so, anyone else on the committee? Well, I was asked to put this on, but unfortunately, the individual's not here.
Well,
Anyone else have a comment? Mr. McDonald,
I
you have
just,
a comment?
you know, just from my standpoint, being through a few audits, typically, management does put together a response,
that's correct.
but it goes to the executive for them to review, and then they sign off on it. That's how it's been done in the past, but then that's why they call the whatever.
I also interrupt you, that was done in 2010 as well. We did see, or I'm sorry, 2009 rather, in the management letter, we did see responses. That's one of the reasons why I think the individuals raised the question. I'm sorry. I didn't
Well,
interrupt you.
that's okay. I had a bad day, so most of what you see in 2010 is in 2011. So I think as far as responses go, if you're responding to one, you're pretty much responding to the other one as well. There's not that significant of a difference between the two, as far as I can see, unless somebody wants to correct me, that the issues were continuing from 2010 to 2011, and a lot of the same issues here are also listed on the DOR report.
That's correct.
So it would be helpful for us to have, I don't know if it's a color-coded map or what it is, but something that would give us, as a finance committee, because again, I know what our charge is. Our charge is to advise town meeting. It's easier for us to say, well, I'm getting a little more trust in these numbers because I have something that says this is what's occurring. So from our standpoint, we're just trying to do the best job we can, and I think that would be something to either electronically transfer. I don't can't color code it if it's electronic, but either through the finance chairman or the committee chairman or whatever. It's just something I think it would help us.
Mr. Chairman, we'll get you copies if you take a look at it and you give me any impression or advice back. That'd be great.
Mrs. Brown?
Can I ask a question? Is this the same DOR response that we're talking, are you talking about a DOR response, Mr. McDonald?
I'm talking about the management letter from the DOR. I believe it was 2009 audit.
Yeah, didn't we have a big color-coded sheet? We were
That's
doing
right. That's what
it on a
I agreed with
weekly basis, and we had completed like 85% of them. I'm just letting you know that they were very active and on that letter.
Yes,
I mean, you remember Wani, don't you?
we'll see it.
Yes.
If you would express our concern to the Board of Selectmen in 2011, we see like I said, no responses. We thought they should have been there. I would appreciate that. And that's what they say. Now your favorite subject, not mine, reserve fund transfer.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, and I think the board and part of that committee know that we obviously made an appeal with regards to the town accountant professional services. It's difficult, I think, to project out in time because I can go back a year from today and say that we're working to, as Member Bronk has pointed out, many of the items on the grid that go back into the accounting, I should say the financial management audit, and they're accounted for off that grid. And then we're adding additional columns to that with regards to the 10 and 11 audit. And I can say that, at least I feel personally enlightened by Justin Cole being here with us. I know that Member Gray served on the search committee. I know that many members of the committee met with Justin. I provided a report to the Board of Selectmen last evening on activity, on major goals that were set by the town administrator that he has followed through on, and that includes reconciliations up and through December 31st. So I had a conversation today, just so that enlighten the committee further, with Mr. Jim Powers about asking his audit team in for that half-year audit that I said on December 14th when we got the audit reports, that we would follow through and get our half-year look. And that will give us a running start to close down the fiscal year. So that being said, to probably classify this right with the appropriate subsidiary account, when I say subsidiary account, for professional services for the town accountant are different from the salary for the town accountant. Because I know Member Gregg sat in a number of meetings and other members of the committee through 2 searches. And we're back out again for a 3rd search based on a report which I'll give to you that we met with the Department of Revenue on a week or so ago that asked us to increase the salary for that full-time person to be hired by the town. We have a firm that has been hired by the town to complete the tasks that the town accountant's office would be assigned. So we would not have known that as we built and passed the fiscal 2012 budget. We are asking for what I consider, and many of you have been in the business world for many years, a bridge between the salary line and the professional services line. So we are looking for that consideration in the amount of $28,253, of which attached we will find, I'm sorry,
That's the
55.
amount, right?
55.
oh, $55,000, excuse me, $55,000, and that attached thereto is an article that Mr. Cole came up with that says at town meeting we intend to pay back from the line. So I guess it's part of the world economy or whatever is happening with regards to there are experts in different fields, and because we only have 2 classifications of expenses, as most towns do, which would be salaries and expenses to run offices and whatever, we fully intend to pay you back the full amount that we're looking for. And once again, it would be a matter of town meeting vote and a pledge of, once again, the town accountant and the administration to follow through and to try to obviously move quickly on this at town meeting to get you your money back into your line as quickly as we can. And that's the purpose behind the request. I might also add that maybe in some other places, and I'll just leave it at that, this might have been done differently, but this is the right way to do this. And we've checked that through with our town accountant and with the Department of Revenue to make sure that we're covered all bases. And I'd appreciate your consideration of this matter.
Any questions, Mr.
Go,
Coleman?
please go.
I'm not really understanding the math here, so I hope you can bear with me. On the warrant article, you're paying us back $55,000, which we're gonna loan to you. Then you've got from regular town accountant, $22,000 to go into professional services. So you're telling me we've got $30,000 or $33,000 in professional services available?
What happened was before, really when we were trying to set the tax rate and such, when Justin Cole came on board, I think we all understand the time constraints that were happening, that he was getting paid out of the, if you see the town accountant professional services line. When he started looking at it and said, I've been paid out of the wrong account from that contract.
Okay.
He basically wants to make that right. It should have been, it really couldn't have been paid out of the salary, but he was paid out of the salary, so, excuse me, was paid out of the town professional services account. So that line, the 22,000 needs to go from salary into that line, because you can't pay the contractor out of salary there. So basically, in a way, it's a housekeeping matter, making the accounting correct.
I'm just trying to, bear with me, I'm just trying to explain this to town meeting, simplify. They're gonna look at this and say, well, you're giving the finance committee back 55,000, but you're only moving over 22,000.
No, you're putting the 55, we're asking for the finance committee to put 55,000 into the, I don't have the.
Professional services.
Right, correct, professional services line.
Yeah.
All right, so that'd be 55,000. Then we're gonna pay the finance committee reserve fund 55,000 from the regular salary line.
Mhm.
Okay.
So that's where we're actually bringing up the professional services and paying you back through the salary. And we can't just shift the lines in there.
Okay.
That's where you
All right.
folks come in.
Okay.
All right, our transfer is reappropriating 55 over to the professional services line.
Okay.
That's what's happening. Mrs. Bronca, QS.
You know, I see where you're coming from this, and I don't have a problem with, you know, me voting for this $55,000. What I do have a real problem is, I'm sitting here looking at the detailed explanation, and I just wanna, it's just not correct. It's not correct.
That's correct. I think we just need to explain it clear, because what's happening is this is a transfer. This is the first entry, all right? And this is the way to pay us back. So
Okay.
there's an additional 22,000 that's gonna have to be put in there for him to be paid. What's happened so far, by the way, and what brings this up, because I got an urgent phone call from the town administrator. They were paid for their services through December, correct? That's why we have a negative balance of 28.
That's right.
Mr. Cole finished up all the reports for the state, came back and said, by the way, you have to put appropriation and correct this because this is wrong, and I can't be paid until you correct it.
Well,
Okay, now, then the next question was, well, do we just take it out of the reserve account? And his suggestion, well, no, borrow it out of the reserve account, get the town to go back and put the money back, and everybody's happy. He's paid, because it's an accounting problem. We cannot pay him out of the accountant's salary line.
And I
That's all
understand that.
That's what it is. Mr. Gray?
I'm a little slow tonight, so bear with me. I think I understand the reason and all the rest, but at the end of the day, cash neutral?
Neutral, zero-sum game.
Zero-sum game, except that we're replenishing cases other emergencies.
Yeah, I understand.
All right.
And if I
I
could
just
say,
wanted to make sure that.
So it's cash neutral to us and cash neutral to the town office.
I'd like to just also say,
Reclass.
this might happen more often given the fact that people are contracting for services from the private world perspective to help out municipal government. You can pick up a copy of the Beacon.
oh, sure.
In the back of the Beacon, you're gonna see a ton of professional services. People who come in and do the job as interim, whatever, for X amount of time, and you're gonna pay them for those services. And the message, if I could just make this one last point, to Brock's point, is that we wanna do it the right way. And, you know, when the town accountant comes and says that, that means he wants to do it the right way, and he's gonna hold departments to help doing it the right way. Thank you.
Mr. McDonald?
If I don't raise my hand, you'll call on me, is that correct?
Well, no, Mr. Gray hasn't talked earlier, so I gave him.
I know, that's it. Wow, where do I start?
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Now, as I was saying. Mr. McDonald, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
As one of the 9 high-end loan sharks at this table,
Yes, sir.
looking at the $22,000 interest paid on, I guess I have more questions about the contract than anything else. First off, do we have a copy of this contract? Does it matter? Just an overview.
The other
Is
side
it
is
an
this.
hourly deal? Is it a?
Mr. McDonald, that's really not the subject. The subject is the transfer. You know, we insisted as a committee, they sort of put me on the spot when they asked for this transfer, because they said, you know, it was the finance committee that was jumping up and down saying we needed an interim accountant. We listened to you, we got it, and now we're asking you for the money, and you're hitting us with technicalities.
I'm just concerned that when we do this, we're going to end up doing it again, maybe later on this year, because right, that's a lot of money, but I'm not sure what kind of money we're looking at. So
Yeah,
I'm not trying to be a,
I understand, but that's the decision of the board of selectmen.
well, when they come back here for the money, it's our
Then we
decision
have
to
it.
give them the money. So, and my point is that I want to make sure when we transfer this 55 at the end of the year,
Yeah, we'll make it whole.
we're not going to be seeing you again in May saying we need another 55 or something like.
No, we don't.
Might be something different.
Well, I know, but I mean, you know what I'm saying. I don't want to, and I'm not trying to get into what the contract is. I just want to know that this is enough to cover it through the end of the year.
My apologies.
That's okay. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, I'm okay with that. I mean, if we're, obviously, we need the professional services, and it's a better deal to get someone that knows what they're doing in here than to bring somebody in and try to train them. And it would have been a lot bigger fiasco.
Oh, man.
I know we agree,
I need a
okay.
motion to make the transfer, and
So
moved.
and it would also,
Second.
I didn't even try.
contingent upon the inclusion of the article in the town warrant.
Yes, that's important.
So moved.
That nobody lobbies against
Second.
the article.
Yeah.
Any discussion?
That would be my only concern. This is an article, and you know how town meeting goes. If someone says, hey, well,
Well, if the town makes a decision, it's their decision. We're
and we're
trying
out
to make sure that
55.
we're, you know,
Okay.
that would be our advice to them, but if they decide that they want to do it differently, then I guess there's not much we can do about it. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's 6-0.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, thank you, committee members. If I can move on to item D. As Mr. Cole was working diligently, I might add, as town accountant, interim, to help us set the tax rate. I think a lot of people think that this is an easy process, even with the town accountant in these difficult fiscal times, it's a difficult process. So without a town accountant, we started the process, and on December 28th of 2011, the Massachusetts Department of Revenue set our tax rate. And that was a weekly and plus other meetings with Chairman Cruz and other individuals in our financial staffs. And at the end of it, the day, if you will, tax bills went out. The town was in good shape, obviously, to get that rolling. The Director of Accounts, Jerry Perry, who some of you know, some of the members have, I think, made a career out of trying to get to know Mr. Perry a little bit better than perhaps protocol will allow. I'll just leave it at that. But he and I spoke about either his team coming down to visit with us or our team going up to Boston. And the way it worked out was he requested the following individuals to be in the room to talk with him. This was his meeting. He came to Wareham to visit with us last Friday with his field representative, Jared Curtis. Our team included Chairman of the Board, Walter Cruz, Mr. Sullivan, Financial Analyst, Treasurer Collector John Foster, and Justin Cole. And we just recapped basically where things were, and he, I believe, gets out and does this on a regular basis for cities and towns. We are obviously facing a tempest. There's no question about that, and we have for some time. We have tremendous needs going forward, not only on the capital side, but our operational costs are going up as we've settled long-standing collective bargaining agreements, and we've tried everything that we can to enhance local revenues and to build budgets that were balanced, which, by the way, just as a point of fact, the Department of Revenue would not have set our tax rate if we didn't have a balanced budget, and we didn't have our audit reports in as we get submitted on time. So that being said, Mr. Perry, Mr. Curtis came up to talk with us, and he stressed the importance. I put some of my, these are my notes. I'm not going to cast these on anybody else, but these are my notes from that meeting. He cast a discussion about the reports that his department, through Department of Revenue, Division of Local Services, Technical Assistance Section, Mr. Rick Kingsley and his staff had come out and looked at our financial systems and looked at the way we handle our financial affairs and our financial management. And what he said to me, sitting there, is that we can't have I won't cite the page, but I'll give you, we can't have a revolving door with regards to the overall policy setting body, the Board of Selectmen, and top administration, including the town administrator. And he cited not only this report, but if you went back a decade, almost a decade, you'd find the same report. You could dust it off. It's on a shelf somewhere. You dust it off, and it basically you just put a new cover sheet on it. So we have had a long-standing, and he minced no words at this meeting. He let us know that he's looking for the level of stability and level of foundation as it relates to the types of financial staff that we have in place, and the best possible policies and procedures which he had lent his staff to help us with, and that included Mr. Curtis and others. We also talked about the frustration that we had, because if you went on the MMA site this evening, you'd find, I think, no less than 4 or 5 other communities, some are more affluent than us, that are looking for town accountants as we speak. So we went through 2 searches this past summer and came up empty, if you will. And so we asked his opinion, and he said to us, as this committee has said, you pretty much get what you pay for. And in some cases, notwithstanding, I guess you have to have the funds, which we are working to include in the 13 budget. You might want to look in the vicinity of something between 90, 92, 93. We said, okay, you know what, we'll put a range in up to 95. Because I think a lot of that pertains to attracting talent and bringing in people who can participate in the process. We literally wound up with nobody other than Mr. Cole that had municipal experience, going through significant municipal experience through this last process. So within a couple days, posting is behind it, put the posting out to basically say, let's try this again, and try to sequence in, if you will, if we can't find and attract a salaried individual to be the town accountant, let's try to do that. And also, let's also work, I might be jumping around a little bit, but let's bridge the gap, if you will, between what Justin Cole is trying to put in place, give him some quality time with this new individual, if in fact, if we can't find someone. He complimented the town commended the town on hiring Bay State Municipal Accounting Group to fill the void left in the accounting office. And I think his team felt very secure, if you will, which is a step forward from this report that says that now we have somebody in that office who can really work in that accountant capacity, and once again to create a transition period, a smooth transition period. In fact, we are able to attract a new town accountant, and with that, my intent is, Mr. Chairman, through you, to ask for the same level of participation. You can bring back the veteran, Mr. Gray, if you'd like, but we do want participation from this committee as well as the Board of Selectmen and the town offices that have to work with this individual as we go forward. He said that also that he would follow up with a letter similar to last year, outlining the components for setting the 2013 tax rate, which, here we go again, which we need to have, the fiscal 12 audit, the management letter, and the federal review, the federal 8-133 review, completed and submitted to his office. Completed balance sheet for fiscal 2012, submitted, and certified free cash, which would happen once again sometime on it before the date that is listed here, which is November 1st. So if we can get back on that audit cycle, if we can stay consistent to where we're going with the town accountant. And the other thing, I just want to be clear about this, because my board asked me, I won't replace Mr. Cole unless we find a qualified candidate that meets the criteria that we outlined. And that includes having high levels of participation, master's above degrees, as included on the specific criteria, or CPA background, and also involvement with an understanding of our accounting system, the VEDA system. So that letter came 3 days later. And with that being said, we We did work and we did talk about that internal to that meeting with regards to the deadline by which completion of, and I just want to make this absolutely clear for the committee, because I've heard a lot of talk and buzz and blogging and other things about this. The Schedule A that was due to the state is simply a restatement which is already in the computer system of our recap sheet. So it makes it easy for, if you go on the mass.gov and you see the town of Wellesley or Wareham or Lexington, and you hit just at a glance, you're gonna get the Schedule A basically shot back at you. It's a restatement of the forms that we've already put in. I'm not making light of the situation, I'm just gonna state it for the record, that we knew we had this timeline. They were aware that we had missed the fall deadline, which is if you're on that audit cycle and you have your audit report completed and everything is due to them on October 30, on November 1st, then obviously you'd have your Schedule A in. If you had a normal set of circumstances around the accounting office, which we did not. Justin has indicated to me that he and staff are working on that, and they plan to accomplish the Schedule A form on or before March 17th. I know it's a Saturday, and I think it's also St. Patrick's Day, but I'll leave it at this. We'll let Mr. Cole decide when he files that report, but there is some buffer time that he needs with his counterparts at the Department of Revenue to complete that form. And once again, I'm not making light of it, but the Department of Revenue would not have set our tax rate if they felt that this schedule was paramount to their information gathering, that it was on the recap sheet, it was submitted to the state, and once again, it's a restatement of that. He reported this to the Board of Selectmen last evening. The Director of Accounts also stressed the importance for continuing our fiscal recovery. Gave him a copy of the 56-point plan grid, 10 pages. He and his staff have it. If they have questions about it, they'll get in touch with myself and Mr. Sullivan. And they also stressed the importance of being very conservative, not only with local revenue, and until the legislature has a local aid resolution, which I hope they will get concluded very shortly between the House and the Senate, all revenue and any source that you have. And he also included his comments, very sincere and direct, of being very conservative as they relate to the healthcare trust fund, which once again the town has audited financial statements for, and in working with our independent auditors, we intend to move forward with our healthcare holiday in a very judicious and balanced way. That's why we've waited through mid part of the fiscal year to have a balanced approach to making certain that we know that we have the sufficient projection of funds in the account to be able to go forward with our plan. And that would include not only this committee, but the Board of Selectmen, and also the Town Council and the Treasurer Collector's Office, to make certain that we have, once again, the appropriate funds as we're projected to be in the account as we begin and finalize the fiscal 2012 budget. So these 6 main points, there might be some other discussion that we had. He was concerned, and he's taking the effort to get out to cities and towns to talk with them about, once again, local revenues, some of the budget buses that this committee has grappled with, as I have, with regards to 16.71% increase in pension costs, additional healthcare costs as we look at some of our plans, even though we're watching them very carefully. Other costs, utilities and collective bargaining costs that are affecting us all. He had, once again, just wanted to stress his concerns for the town, and I think he felt very strongly that, at least at the end of the meeting, and you have a copy of the letter that came on the 17th, that you've got to, once again, finalize this process with regards to the Schedule A by March 31st, that letter once again stressed the deadline. He had said the 23rd, but we intend to get it on the 17th, Mr. Chairman. So
Well, that was from Commissioner Newton's, correct?
that's correct.
And there's a consequence as well, correct? Because I've heard a great deal about this, obviously.
I do understand that, and I don't.
Obviously, I don't know if the committee members are aware
Well,
of that as well.
I mean, if you don't complete all of the forms that are due, the state can hold back your disbursement of local aid, which is
Right.
not something that we want to see happen. So with that being said, you know, he was very stern, and, you know, which I see the chairman of the board of selectmen is here with us. You know, he was very candid and very stern, that he didn't want to have to come out, Mr. Chairman, a decade from now and find the same findings that we've had a revolving door in many of the upper level positions, including town administrator. He wanted to be certain that he had made his points on, been in the business over 30 years, and I've worked with him for quite a long time. But he also wanted to put a face with the name so that he could pick up the phone and call Derek, or call Justin or John Foster, whoever, and have some form of, you know, collegial approach to solving whatever issues that they might have. And so that was the meeting that we had with the Director of Accounts.
I understand you have another appointment tonight. Will you entertain some questions?
Of course I will, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Trudeau, you see you first, and then go to...
Take over from here.
You mentioned that we've increased the salary range to 90 to 95 for town account. What's the delta between what we're paying the accounting firm to do what they're doing through Mr. Cole and reaching this?
If you look from the transfer with what we've paid and what you put in there, you're closer to the 80,000 amount, but that wasn't really a full year, because that would
Right.
be, so I would say, you know, it's actually kind of proportionate if you take in the fringe benefits on the whole thing, so it's...
A rough order of magnitude would be fine.
Yeah, we're probably looking at, Justin Cole, that firm would probably be about 100,000, I would say, for the full year there.
If you annualized it.
Yeah, if you annualized it, and, you know, we're here at 95,000.
And that would be without them having benefits because they're in. So a town accountant could potentially cost us more if I added in pension, healthcare, benefits type things, then continuing on with the accounting firm, except that, of course, that's subject to negotiations, but still. Okay, I've asked my
It's a great question, Mr. Chairman, and I think that's the salient point here, that, you know, you can get a person, and they can be running at all this stuff as fast as we all are. But that person's costs, because of the pensions and the healthcare and the other insurances, workers' comp, unemployment insurance, all that adds up in terms of the fringe benefit package that we put with it.
Sure. I might also add, if I go to the next individual, remember that Mr. Cole is here on Wednesday and Friday, where a regular accountant would be here all the time. Mr. Cole is proposing, well, he actually has already changed the methods that we use for posting, etc. And basically the method that he's proposing pretty much requires a full-time person to review all entries, etc., so we don't have a reoccurrence. So, and it's very hard too, because they also were doing 2010 and 2011. And we're only going to be looking at in 2012, for that matter. See, they were working on 3 different years, etc. So it's not quite, so it's sort of an apple and a watermelon.
Not apples and apples.
It's an apple and a watermelon. Don, I believe you're what you...
Yes, I just have a question, and I just don't understand, with the meeting with the DOR, why the chairman of the finance committee wasn't involved in it.
The chairman and I talked about this. This was a request from the Department of Revenue. It wasn't my meeting, Donna. It was a request from the Department of Revenue. And as far as I'm concerned, anybody from this committee can come to any meeting that I have.
I just, given the nature of financial, it just seemed logical that you would have included the chairman of the finance committee. I mean, I know you're saying it's not your meeting, but it just makes no sense that I mean, we make our recommendations to the town.
I was, so you know, I was subsequently briefed by both the chairman of the board of selectmen. I did have a conversation with Mr. Perry, and I did have a conversation with Mr. Anderson.
I'm just
I know, but...
sending out my point of view, that's all. I mean, I just think that it would have been, and I understand it's not your meeting, but I just don't understand why, you know, that didn't happen.
Mr. Perry?
Just following up on the prior question of the difference in salaries through you, I think that when we sat down and the group who were doing the interviewing and so forth, we could have been mistaken. That's very possible. But I think we calculated that our total cost using Mr. Cole was going to be slightly under what a town account was going to cost. And I don't mean that there was a huge saving, because there wasn't.
Sure.
But I remember looking at that because we were concerned about any increased costs. And at that point, based on what he was estimating his time would be, et cetera, it was going to be under the cost of town accountant.
Mr. Chairman, to you just saying,
Including all benefits, et cetera, that a town accountant.
that might have been on the first look, the first blush of this. And let me just say this to you. You know, he and his entire team, in some cases, worked the entire weekend or weekends to get stuff done that needed to get done to complete the setting of the tax rate, which was a charge that I had given to him, Sam, through you, Mr. Chairman, that, you know, I guess you can bring on a town accountant for less and not set the tax rate, and then come up short. Or you could look at it.
I wasn't suggesting.
I'm not suggesting that. No, I just want people to understand that he had a team of individuals, and that it wasn't just like a normal year, that we had to go back and restate schedules and go back over documents, work closely with the state and with Powers and Sullivan, Sam, to recreate and to have those documents set up for the first time. And we also talked about this, that you know, it would probably make sense to have somebody in like Justin for a period of time, and then segue and have a transition bridge period when you bring a person in to say, okay, now it's your opportunity, but certainly not at crunch time, which would have been, you know, once again, late November, early December. And I do understand the point, and I'm not casting anything on it. It's just that it will be within the budget of the town accountant's office at the end of the day, so. Mr. Chairman?
I would compliment you on realizing that the FinCom had made a very good recommendation to you at one point about hiring an interim accountant, and in the end doing so.
You know, I would take that, and I compliment you back, because, you know, Sam's work and, you know, Larry's pitched in and others have pitched in, Donna and others, Bonnie, Dave's always involved. You know, the important part here, if I could, I won't say what I said to you today in my office, but, you know, we really need to move past these reports and all these clouds that were raining on the town. We need to make sure that we have the ability to go and to complete this budget process for fiscal 2013 and start to build, and you and I talked about it, I'm starting to already build the 2014 budget based on formula, so that everybody has a clear set of ideas about what's going to go where and how it's going to go based on what we get from the state. Just one quick item. We've trended out for not only this committee, but for the Board of Selectmen, jointly for the school committee. Our motor vehicle excise tax is sinking. People are driving their cars longer. That means the town of Wareham and other cities and towns get less money. Because if they were buying new vehicles like the boom years in the mid-90s, you know, we'd be picking up steam. We showed you that 10-year trend, okay? So we're all in this together. We're gonna get that formula-based budget going as soon as we can complete the 2013 budget. And I'm doing my darndest, I'll just leave it with this last point, to talk to legislators, get to the Mass Municipal Association, the Mass Association of Finance Committees, and let's get the fiscal 2013 local aid resolution completed. That'll take a lot of mystery out of this, and that's how I intend to spend my time over the next couple of weeks, Mr. Chairman.
I think what I'm basically saying is we support the decision that you made to hire Mr. Cole. I don't think that anyone here would also disagree with your comment that if we're unable to find the right applicant and going through the process and we have to re-advertise, that we would continue to employ Mr. Cole until such time as we were able to find the right town accountant, a qualified individual.
Thank you for that, I appreciate it very much.
I have one quick question for you. That's there's been some confusion as to the cash and ledger reconciliations. I'm hearing from, at times from Mr. Cole, that we're all set. I'm hearing from other parties that are involved in those reconciliations that they feel they haven't been done. All right, I tend to, I'm not sure what the discrepancy is. If you could get back to us by the next meeting and let us know why some people feel that, the reconciliations may be done, but they don't realize that they're.
That's fine, Mr. Chairman.
All right, that would be very helpful. I just want to clear
Sure.
that off the deck as
Sure.
fast as we can.
And-
Next comment I was going to make to you, I know you have another appointment. If you're willing to trust Mr. Sullivan to give us the December numbers, I'll let you make your other appointment. Or
I
you're
do,
surely
I do
welcome
trust
to
him,
stay.
and just for the record, the onset Youth Association's meeting, and unfortunately scheduled at the same time, so that's where I'm heading. I trust Mr. Sullivan with everything except my cough drop, so.
Last part of the report is the December monthly report. And I understand you're going to press us by giving us more than December.
You ended up going through January 31st. Actually, these are from Mr. Cole here, so he's helped out big time. We have the revenues and the expenditures on here. Usually when I've created the reports, I've had just a little bit of information on there for you. You'll see Justin Aiken, that's outstanding, really. He's added a footnote to one of the main things that's still out there is municipal maintenance, the approximately $140,000 for Hurricane Irene that we're still waiting on for reimbursements on that. Yeah. And you'll see the town accountant expense line that includes phase 1 contract for BMAG, so their expenses would be higher than what we've budgeted for. We're trending very well in the department. Selectmen's budget is overexpended, and I need to look into that. What's going on in there? We did get the reversal on the postage that was posted in the wrong spot, so that's brought it down closer to what it should be. I'm sure the first one that's going to come out to everybody will be the police budget, which would be on page 5 of 13. See that they're running high in their expenses. The expense percentage expected for date would be 58.3. They're at 67.5%. We know that they've had some one-time expenses with computer repairs, with replacing the stairs, so we know that they've been trending a little bit higher. Obviously, something that's going to concern us for the 2013 budget, and that a lot of departments, such as the police, are experiencing now is, and will for the rest of this year, is the increase in gas prices as well. So it'll probably hurt all of us. Their personal expenses, the personal services, so the salary is higher as well. That's still, Justin Cole sent out to all the departments this as well, and a line item, and asking them, is anything out there outstanding? And one of them is still the settlement for $200,000 that had hit their line and should have been against the settlement line that we'd shown in the budget there. So that would bring it closer down, and they were just expended out of there was I believe it was the sick leave buyback. So that's a one-time expenditure, which will give you kind of the peak on there. That's I was looking at that, and it used to come out of the sick leave buyback line, and this year it's hit the police line. So I need to try and figure out whether that's something that should have happened, or should have, because we're going to have approximately the same amount left over in the sick leave buyback. So it tells me maybe it should have hit that like the other departments instead. So when I put the 200 back in and the sick leave buyback, and then I projected it out, it'd actually be closer. Mine for the year end would be about 4.168 million. So if there weren't those outliers in there, they would be trending, in fact, on there. The other ones on here really, if we're looking through here, the school, they've been able to, Justin was able to work with the school to give you an actual idea of what their expenses are versus the personnel services. And that is on page 6. So I think that's probably more educational for you rather than the way it was broken down before, so you can actually see what they're paying out in salary, what they're paying out in expenses. And the only other one that I know for a fact that we're going to definitely go over with is the workers' comp line. And I looked into that with what's happening. We budgeted $248,050 for that. And the actual workers' comp cost for the year will be $231,354. There is a long-standing, we're going back almost a decade, I believe. I don't know if it'd be a settlement or what you'd call it, but it's somebody that was on the school payroll and through workers' comp or whatever happened. I don't know the exact details about it and probably wouldn't say it right now to not get myself in trouble, but basically there's somebody that is paid through that line approximately, well, the raise is $960 a week, so their entire salary would be about $50,000, and it's something, for some reason this year it's hitting the workers' comp line. I don't know if that's going to be for the future. It was a former school employee. So.
When I first came on the FinCom, I sat with Mr. Bliss regarding that.
Okay.
For whatever reason, this person was making not a very large salary, but they put them to workman's comp. And as a result, over a period of years, it is just keeps compounding. Instead of going out under a disability, they put them to workman's comp, and we are paying heavily for that decision.
I thought that was clear.
I did too.
But didn't we settle almost a year ago on one?
We've offered to settle unsuccessfully, and if you were in that person's shoes, you wouldn't settle either.
Okay.
So that, I guess that's not something, and I don't believe, we do not get reimbursed for that either. So why it's, what I'm looking at is for 2013 now, I'm going to increase the workers' comp to cover that until I know where else it should be placed. And that's more for the accountant to tell me where that's going to be, and he needs to get the historical knowledge behind it to place as to whether it should be in the school line or not. The good thing is it counts as the in-kind. The bad thing is we're paying it out of the budget. So to give you an idea of the
health though.
What's
I
that?
still see nothing on the health, which is right underneath it.
You are correct, and my understanding is that was one of the things that Powers and Sullivan spoke about is the way the employees do it, that's taken out of every paycheck. And the way the town, which I'm advocating for 2013, is when the employees pay their part in, the town should put their part in. Right now, it looks like the town puts a lump sum payment in. So it moves it all in at once, is my understanding. They don't do it quarterly, they don't do it monthly, they move it all over at once. So.
When?
End of the year.
End of the year.
Yeah, I would guess it's the end of the year.
I'm not sure I'd agree with that.
I don't either, because
Well,
people,
that's a policy decision that somebody will have to address. It's
No,
not
that-
ours to address.
That might be a law decision as well.
That's, I would suspect that this selectman will be
Okay.
investigating that or checking on it. It's a policy decision.
Yeah, I would think that after, especially from Powers and Sullivan recommendation, that next year we'll go on a cycle where our percentage is put in per the paycheck. And it's easier I would say it's easier to keep track of everything then. So from my view, I'd enjoy it.
In lieu of that, I think that we would ask that there be at least periodic updates as to, at least quarterly, as to where we stand. I mean, this is one of the probably one of the biggest numbers we have in our entire budget.
What I'll do is I'll speak with Mr. Cole there and see if we can get together for what the actual run rate has been, what the costs are and such, to give you the true idea of where we are on it.
I would say that we need a comfort level before we bring the 2013 budget to the town meeting and say, you know, advise, it's a good budget. All right, we're gonna have to have a comfort level. If you would bring that up with the town administrator, I would appreciate it.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't need to, go ahead.
No, that would be the part with the workers' compensation, so that would mean for that account projecting forward would end up in a deficit of $33,398 with those payments coming out of there. The rest, many of these things are the assessments, so they're usually paid out. You'd be charged quarterly on those, or whenever the state will send the bill to us. You do have one other packet on there. It's a 13-page packet, and Mr. Cole had asked that I hand this to you tonight, and that one is it's actually for fiscal year 2011, the entire budget process of where you end up. I believe I may have handed out all the copies. No, I have one for myself here. Obviously, I think where everybody will probably go is right to the very end and see where we stood. And if you look, the budget expended at the end of the year was about approximately $101,000 or $139,257 over what was budgeted. I believe the main hit on that was snow and ice was really what hit us there.
That rolls forward, right?
That would have been, we would have been from 2011, that should be all taken care of on there when they reconciled everything. So we don't have a deficit in there anymore. We were hit for that deficit for our free cash number.
Okay, so that's how they do it, the free cash. For 2011, certified free cash is actually a net of this number, what we have.
Right, correct.
Will the budget schedules be updated? The budget schedules, will they be updated for our next meeting?
That's what these numbers can now be input in there. I have a comfort level after they came through Mr. Cole to actually put them in there, so then when what's going forward, everybody can see what's actually in 2011. I can take the little caveat out of there as well.
All right, so we will see an
Updated schedule.
all right, and the appropriation will also balance for the 2011, I mean, will we correct that schedule, is what I'm asking.
With the 2012 will
For that
be
calendar
actually,
year.
what was put in for 2012 as well, what was voted in at town meeting, and then we'll have whatever's projected for the end of the year. Now we've got a really good sample after basically 7 months on there of where we stand on all those items.
Okay. Not to put you on the spot, but to put you on the spot, do you have any idea when you might have that ready for us? Because if we get hit with the warrant on the 13th, it would be nice to have it maybe on the first week of March at the latest.
When I was in private industry, I never overpromised and underdelivered, but I do.
Well, put yourself in our shoes, once the warrant comes by, we want at least one meeting to be able to sit and take a good hard look at the budget.
My honest,
Before we get into the deliberations.
Send me the spreadsheet, I'll put them in.
my honest view is to have everything updated and electronically sent out Tuesday, so then they'd be available for everybody Wednesday.
1st of March.
That would be, I don't know what
I'm not gonna
to tell
hold
you.
that, like I said, our first meeting would be,
I was just questioning, because you realize that's the 1st of March, it's a little early. You can cushion that a
all
little.
right,
Yeah.
so you're saying we should be able to have it in hand before we
Your next
get the warrant?
Yes.
Okay, that's the key note, the date, the key date in my mind. Anyone else have a better date? Seeing none. Is there any, do we have any questions for Mr. Sullivan on what we're presenting?
Not on that part.
Seeing none, I guess we're all set.
Does that go away, keep the time to cut away?
What?
Just where you guys show me the smelter, if I don't get the money back.
I'd just make a comment that things might not be perfect, but we've come a long way in the last year
Yeah,
as far as,
yeah, we have.
as far as figures are concerned.
We truly have. No, I understand that. I think our comfort level right now is probably the highest, especially in the entire 18 months I've been on the
Well,
committee.
certainly as
Did
long
we
as
get letter
updated.
G answered?
Pardon?
Healthcare
Yes,
trust.
when you talked about earlier, that
Being
they
involved,
were,
yeah.
you know, the town administrator did say that they were being extremely cautious with it. All right, yes, it would be there. They haven't set a date for it or anything because they really need to know from the trustee, and I'm sorry, our administrator of the healthcare, all right? But we've got to be careful.
If we don't,
The other tragedy that happens with them is you give the holiday and then you have to go back to the remaining people and say, we're going to increase your premiums by X. And, you know, that's not always the best thing. They're very aware. Now, there's another twist for us in that if we don't put the holiday in, then we're gonna have a huge deficit for this year. So, you know, I don't expect them to have the answer right now. I really don't.
Okay.
It's something they really have to move cautiously on. And he also emphasized that the Department of Revenue was asking him to move cautiously on it. Did everyone get the draft of the letter I sent out for the?
Yes.
that thing that says draft, draft, draft.
Yeah, it says, yeah, because I don't do that to somebody usually. Does anybody have any adjustments to it?
Nope.
Everybody agree?
I just, first time read it.
Love it.
Basically, we're asking that the Board of Selectmen appoint a 3-member audit committee. The report is directed to their committee, reports to them, there's all the reporting to them, et cetera. We're just asking them based on what we heard from the DOR and what we heard from the DOR and our auditors, that we think, we recommend that they do it.
Who's going to select the committee,
They would, it's their committee, their committee.
Oh,
This is the letter I was supposed to write like a month ago.
Yeah, no, you did a good job, Frank.
I certainly wasn't gonna comment on that, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I know that. So the meeting was over, the cameras are out. Kelly, if you would put that on official stationery for me, I'll
do we have to vote on
stop
that or
by.
anything?
and- Pardon? Yeah, oh, yes, I'm sorry.
Would you like to do that?
Yes, I would. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
What's the motion?
Well, the motion is to send a letter to the chairman of the Board of Selectmen and the members of the Board of Selectmen requesting an audit committee. Are we requesting? Formation of an audit committee.
Okay.
And do you want to go into the details of, would you like, because I can
That's
rattle
fine.
on for
No, I
hours.
just need a motion for her to write down.
We don't have enough to vote.
Do I have a
on,
second?
Do we have enough to vote?
1,
Yes,
2,
we have
3,
5.
4, 5.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 500. The automation manual, I think we pretty much covered it.
Yeah, that's tough.
Not a problem. I put on here the MMA convention session on the emergency, and I wanted to bring this up when we had some more time, et cetera, but it was probably one of the most scary workshops I've ever been to in my life. Because it dealt with emergencies, not from the point of view of the public safety units, but from the point of view of the other portions of the government. Whether it's inspectional services, the accounting department, et cetera. And one of the big questions they raised, and I think this reemphasizes the whole town accountant issue, is that when the FEMA and MEMA come in, you better have all your I's dotted and your T's crossed when it comes to contracts, et cetera. Otherwise, you wind up not being able to be reimbursed. So, and there'll be some movement, I think, in the future, we were told to try to work with the towns to train the entire town government, all right, in dealing with the emergencies. But it was pretty scary when they started talking about what do you do when hundreds of trucks start arriving with material, gifts, how do you distribute it? you know, medical supplies, food, all the things, you know, when you open up your main streets, there's a lot of things that we didn't think of. I would also say that if they did do a session next year at the end of May, I would really encourage all the members to attend. Because one of the things that was pointed out to us by, there's two town administrators from the middle of Massachusetts. They said, you know, when everything settles down, that's when the work starts. And one of the toughest things is for the finance committee as well, because you have to rebuild the town. So that's why I want to make sure everybody sort of heard about that. They put some information up on their website, if you go and visit it, I think it's worth reading.
I think you went over too the importance of the town accountant in this whole process. I thought that was an interesting piece.
Yes, one of their comments to us was that your emergency team should include not only the fire chief, the police chief, the EMS chief, and your head of municipal maintenance, but the other person who's critically important to you as a town, especially when it comes to finance down the road, is your town accountant. The town accountant should be fully trained in how to deal with this emergencies, these types of emergencies. And coming from a shore area and having grown up in a shore area, they sure did scare me. The action committee met tonight, and went down and went through that, and from what I saw, they're not making much progress.
That's
so I don't know what's going to happen on the next.
Non-action committee, did you say?
Won't do that. The budget review, the latest update I have on the revenues is that the growth will be closer to 175 rather than 100. But other than that, nothing has really changed on the revenue side that I've heard.
I'm not so much concerned with the revenue side as I am as we evolve here. We're talking about a town accountant that, if you look at the budget for 2013, I'm not sure that we are fully covered in that area, number one. But I mean, there's a lot of different areas in the expense side that maybe could be weaned down a little bit, or maybe moved out of that area and moved into another area to cover some of the costs. I mean, we had that, was it $25,000 stipend for some position, financial director?
Well, again, that's going to go, I mean, the whole budget's going to go back to the town administrators
Right.
and the superintendent of schools. Because like I said, I've heard the one small move on the revenues. When it comes to the town departments, all right, I sort of hate to even come near the town hall because we're seeing rising costs in a lot of different areas and more information is coming in,
Yeah.
all right?
Well, that's my second point of this whole thing, is the more I read these letters from all the department heads, the more I realize, you know, there's certain things it's virtually impossible to cut out of the budget, so.
That's correct. We had heard that there was a request by the town administrator to cut 5% out of all the expense sides, and some of those are contractual things that bring us more revenues, et cetera.
Exactly.
All right, and we have to be very, prepared for those. I looked at one point, what was the revenue growth and what were the non-controllables, and where did we stand? I used the flat line, the 54 million that we had last year, or whatever. So the level spent, how would we compare to the revenues? Well, the healthcare, holiday, and the pension takes care of everything we're going to pick up.
Yep.
All right, and leaves us in a $400,000 hole. And then I was advised that, well, we don't know what the new premium is going to be on the healthcare. It's just there's the increase on the accounting side. There's a number of different areas that increases are coming in. I also received a letter from, everybody should know, I received a letter from the school department saying that, very short, please find a copy of the FY13 school budget of $28,780, which was approved by a 3-2 vote at the meeting of the Wareham School Committee on January 25th, 2012. That's $3 million difference from what we're seeing on the budget, that proposed budget that was given to us on December 15th. So, I mean, we're looking at a huge number. This also does not include, we received, the next item I had on there was capital items, because the state has decided in their infinite wisdom that this might be the time to discuss with us the possibility of doing the night at school. And to do that, we received a letter telling us that that was the situation. It's a different committee.
Okay.
This one requires $500,000 for a study to be done, so that we can qualify for a 60 to 70% reimbursement on the building of a new elementary school. They have 270 days to raise the money, so that's another thing that falls on top. We all know about the buses. We know we need an ambulance. I mean, the list is going on and on and on. So, by the time we get the warrant, I'm not sure what the budget's gonna look like. But I'm beginning to think that we're probably gonna have to meet almost weekly, and it's gonna be fast and furious. I've also set the goal for both the town administrator and the superintendent to make sure that we're not hearing last minute items. All right. The question has come up, you know, we have an action committee on the buses, and there's always been the question, the ad hoc committees, et cetera. I think we're reaching the point where we really need to have the board of the school committee, ourselves, all 9 of us, not just a quorum, and the board of selectmen get together in a workshop, sit down and try to talk some of this out. Not a 2, 2, and 2 like we did last year with the ad hoc or anything, because inevitably what happens is ideas get left on the table, or people say, why didn't you do this, or why didn't you do that? We know that nobody's advocating debt exclusions, nobody's advocating overrides, nobody's advocating cutting the schools in half, cutting the police departments in half, but at the same time, nobody's coming up with any solutions. So with the committee's permission, I would like to invite both the school committee and the board of selectmen to do that, to have a workshop where we get together. I would also like to, considering the $3 million gap on the school side, ask them to come back, and we said last year the big problem we had, they made a wonderful presentation, and when they went back to make the cuts, they never revised what are the cuts and what the impacts were. So I would like to have a session with them and sit down and say, okay, if we level fund you, what does that mean? Because I keep hearing a large number of layoffs. Okay, and I don't think it's a threat.
I know it's out of order, but I wonder if maybe I could comment on my meeting with the school yesterday. I met with, if I may.
You should be met.
I met with Dr. Rabinowitz to ask him about what I thought was going to be the Minot Forest situation. And we did talk about that briefly, but we also ended up, what I didn't realize was that half an hour later, he was having a budget meeting, and he asked me to sit in on that, which I did for much of it. As far as capital items are concerned, they are considering 4 items. The first would be the Minot Forest, which, as you said, would be $500,000 debt exclusion, with the state then paying 60%, so at the end it would be a cost to us of $200,000. The second was a high school roof, which has got a cost of $350,000. The third, and I'm just listing what they were saying, so the third was 10 buses, and they said obviously if the action committee comes up with a different solution, that's fine, but what they were proposing was 10 buses, which would have a cost of $900,000, but one of the things that everybody would have to realize, and certainly they would state, would be that 5 of those buses will be a repeat year after year. In other words, it'll be a $450,000 cost every year. And finally, they were looking at technology and textbooks, which came to about $435,000. All of these are round figures. When you got through, you were looking at a couple of million that they were going to be asking, or they were considering asking for a debt exclusion. They then were looking at, they started looking at what it would be if they had to reduce their budget by 2.7 million. And not surprisingly, since your costs are heavily in personnel, you were going to take a big toll on teachers. But I think what they were going to do was to do 2 cuts at it. One was going to be reducing it to 2.7 million, and one was a level budgeting to show what both would be. I guess when you were looking at the type of reductions that they were looking at, and they were severe, and I won't get into specifics just because I don't think it's fair to the school committee, because obviously they were, this was a discussion, so there was nothing that was being decided they were trying to work on. But it was quite clear that you were going to have your class size jumping by somewhere in the order of 25%, and a quite severe layoff in teachers. And that's not surprising, because obviously you can't cut 2.7 million when 80-some% of your costs are personnel, and most of the rest is fixed. You can't get there any other way than cutting personnel. I guess the end of my thought on the end of it is your suggestion is a very good one, because I don't think anybody wants to be blindsided by this as we walk into town meeting, because that's gonna, I think it should concern, if not scare, nearly everybody in the town. And I think, I think that, I would think that the selectmen and certainly the finance committee should be looking hard on this. Now, I don't think they're, at least as of yesterday, they were still working the numbers, so I think if you said have a meeting tomorrow, they would say, hey, we're not ready yet. But, they're clearly working hard on trying to come up with some.
I can contact the chairman on that, and I know he's pretty amenable to the idea. One of the other
I'm
questions,
sure he is.
one of the things that came up was, well, fine, if we know what the level funding is, we know what the budget is based on what was given to us by the town administrator. We also know there's a good possibility there may be some money coming back to the state, or from the state. And their approach this year, I guess, is a little different than it has been in the past. It would be, they would tell everybody what they could put back, right? So it's like, well, if we get 300, then it'll be this, if we get $500,000, it'll be that, right? But it's still going to, no matter how you cut it, it's going to be a huge number if we don't do something.
Yep.
And understand, part of the problem on this is the result, we pushed it down the road a year with the healthcare holiday. This really is a 2011.
We knew that.
This is a 2012. And somehow or another, we have to make sure that, the residents understand that the citizens understand that. We moved it out a year, and here we are, only 2 months away from the town meeting, and we truly have not done much to deal with the problem at this point.
I have a question for you, Sam, if you're the chair.
Yes.
Okay. Do they ever, I mean, the tactic is always, you know, we're laying off teachers, we're laying off teachers, we're laying off building classroom. Does anybody ever talk about cutting administration at all?
Oh, yeah.
Anywhere?
There was talk of cutting everywhere they could.
Because they have so many deans, they have this, they have that, and I'm not questioning the validity or anything, but all I keep hearing is, we're gonna lose teachers. Are we looking at, I just wanna make sure that they're looking at everything, not just teachers.
If I may respond on that, obviously, I didn't get into the nitty-gritty on this. I was more an observer.
Yes.
First of all, I didn't have the facts to jump into the middle of it. But my sense was that they were looking at cutting all the costs. And yes, I know in one case they were looking at a situation where there were a couple of principals and cutting down one. I know that they were talking about closing one of the schools. So, yeah, they were.
That's why I said we should have them come in and discuss with
They
us.
were, now,
When we say now, it's
I'm not suggesting
wanted to
that
hear
this is gonna be
what
their
they had to say.
decision, but.
If they're at least exploring it.
Let's let them, remember, we will be,
Well, Mr.
the
Chairman,
public will see this meeting,
I
okay?
understand
Let's
that.
let them have their say first.
I understand,
rather
Mr.
than us
Chairman, I
speculate.
just thought that it would be helpful to ask Mr. Gray what he heard.
Yes, that's, but I would exercise caution as he's starting to. Mr. McDonald?
One of the things that never been explained to me, and I've heard it several times, is this thing called minimum funded. The schools are minimum funded. What is that minimum funded level? Are we?
Don't, excuse me, may I?
That's why I'm asking.
Don't ask me for the detail on this, because I'm gonna be lost very quickly. But apparently, there is a regulation which, as I understand it, requires towns to fund schools a percentage of their total budget.
Okay, so it's really kind of.
So that, and one question that came up was, this present year is, are we gonna meet that minimum? And I would say, from at least the school committee's viewpoint, school's still out on that, to use the phrase, that they weren't sure whether we would or not.
Well, that's always been one that I wanted to answer. The other one is, I was not on this committee when this budget came up last year, and I sat right in, I got up, walked right down to the microphone and said, we need to address it this year, because what we're doing this year, we should have done last year.
All right, let me go a little further, because I know a little bit more, Sam, if I might, okay?
Please.
Because I have addressed it with Anna Miranda, and she's trying to get me the numbers as far as what the minimum for next year would be.
Okay.
And in doing that, she was looking at this year and said, oh my goodness, we might have a problem. The minimum funding includes healthcare costs.
Ooh.
And there's a good chance that we might not make minimum funding this year because of the healthcare holiday.
Mhm.
Yep.
That's,
Now, we can miss a year, that's okay with the state, all right? But then going into next year, all right, as I said, we better get back on track. Now, if we have a substantial increase in the healthcare costs, all right, well, fine, we have an increase in the minimum spending, but it's on healthcare, which means we may lose more salaries.
That's right. And this is not just a school problem, this is gonna be a tax problem.
so.
No, but it's that for the minimum funding, understand.
Right.
They come back with a new number, if there's been a substantial increase in healthcare, it may mean additional staff.
Why can't we do both of the selectmen and the school together? Do we wanna do them separately or together, or how do you come in
Well,
and meet with us?
the school is, I think at some point we need to sit with both. The first step is to really, the school committee would like to tell us what they think is gonna happen on
Okay.
their side. I was actually
Next
asked,
week, right?
could they come speak with us? And I said yes. All right, now, they didn't give me any dates or anything, but they wanna make sure that we fully understand, and then we should all talk about it. Bonnie, I'm sorry.
I'm gonna ask a dumb buddy question. What happens if we don't meet minimum school spending? Do we get slapped or what?
Oh, yeah, it's the usual.
So-
You know, I'm not quite sure, you know. I don't know
Penalty
what,
was
we'll have to
right.
ask the school committee what that means. Sam, do you have an answer?
Well, I can tell you what they said.
Okay, yeah,
What
okay.
they said was that the town would have to, say you came up 200,000 short. The town would then have to give the school committee $200,000.
Right. And they
Oh, we
cut
have to
from
make it
elsewhere.
up on the town
Yes,
side.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
And if it's a $500,000, it's a $500,000. If it's 200, it's 200. If it's $1 million, it's $1 million. But it has to be met.
Yeah, but if that's the case, I mean, as far as this year is concerned, an adjustment in accounting can be made and take less of a
No.
holiday. Why not?
Oh, that,
Yeah.
because the holiday is what allows us to balance the year.
I
They take
understand.
less of holiday.
We can't deficit spend.
It's called being caught between a rock and a
And
hard
hard.
spot.
David, you want to add
If you
something?
fix one, the other one bites you.
I'll make a comment on the, Sam's report under capital planning, but, if you've gone to the school all day or back in December, whatever, there were some points made. And one of the points that I commented on last year was, school was laying off 8 teachers, which they did.
Mhm.
We hired 5 policemen. You know, on one hand, we're putting some on here, and he's losing teachers. And I'm not saying that there's equality there, but we can say about the police overtime, we can say a lot of things, but the reality is, we add 5 here, they lose 8 there. Now, they're looking at potentially other issues regarding the total number of teachers they're gonna have, regardless of the budget number we ultimately come up with. Plus the stuff that Sam talked about. I think the schools are in real trouble.
I think they're in very big trouble.
Oh, I agree.
And
It's our responsibility to step up and help them.
Can we get them on the agenda next week?
Well, let me talk to them, all right? We also have some other items that we have to look at some point, and that is the other budget line items. You know, we have to look at the healthcare, we have to look at the pension side, we have to look at, you know, the various charges from the states, is that everything that's non-departmental. And we do need to look at that some point, and we'll need the town administrator and, obviously Mr. Sullivan to help us out on all those items as well. So I guess what I'm saying is, if I can get them next week, I'll have them next week. If not, there's still a lot for us to do. And we're not even, I mean, we're 3 weeks away from the warrant. The warrant's gonna bring that much more. And as Sam just said, on the warrant, I know we're gonna face a minimum of 4 overrides, not 4 overrides, 4 debt exclusions.
Can I make a suggestion?
All right?
I mean, I'm available, I don't know if anybody else is, but, you know, these Wednesday night meetings, to have the board of selectmen and the school committee here might be a little difficult. But, I mean, doing something maybe on a Saturday morning or something,
Again, that would be,
I would certainly be willing to do that.
that's up to them. The other thing too,
Don't
though,
give me that evil line.
one of the most important things is if we're going to do this, right, it's 15 people,
Mhm.
and they've got to make every effort to be here for that.
Right.
Because this is going to be some of the toughest talk that's had to occur in this town in a long time. And I don't want to, I see in too many committee meetings where, like, even if we come back to this conversation next week, we're going to have 3 members who are going to be asking the same questions we've
That
already
we've already
discussed.
said that.
Right? So we have a lot of unproductive time.
I understand
And
that.
I would not want to go to that level of meeting, all right, and, you know, not have everybody there. The other side of this is I'm quite sure the public will want to be there. It's pretty hard for us to say no, all right? Not that they, like I said, workshop doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to be soliciting opinions, but I'm sure there'll be a number of people that will want to hear what's being said.
As they should.
Especially when the warrant comes out, you know a lot of people are gonna wanna hear everything that's said at every meeting, by every member. Sam?
One thing I should repeat, obviously I wanted to give a tone, or give you an idea of the tone of the
I noticed all the
meeting.
black grade, but go ahead.
But obviously too, the school committee had not made any decisions,
Yes,
so,
I understand.
so there should be no conclusion that, oh, X number of people are gonna be laid off or anything else because they haven't reached that period. So in fairness to them, there should be nothing specific taken away.
Oh, no,
Other than the $3 million gap.
Other than,
Another $3 million
other
gap.
than, they got a huge problem.
My point tonight was I received a letter from that said that that was their budget, and we have another budget in front of us. There's a big gap there, and they would like to discuss it.
Yeah.
All right, and they want to discuss it with everyone.
But now, I'm sorry, you wanna say
No,
that?
I'm good.
I don't want them to throw it in here and say, you guys fix it, cause we don't fix it.
No.
We are
Sure.
not facing, we are not facing that.
Okay.
I have to honestly say, in the discussions I've had with them, that they understand it's their problem. We're back to what I said last year at one point, all right? And that is the revenue belongs to the Board of Selectmen, and the expenses belong to the town administrator and the superintendent, all right, the Board of Selectmen and the school committee. That's why we're not on the action committee. It's because we have no control over it, we can only advise Tom Meehan.
Okay.
So, but I've always said that we were more than willing to work and help them in any way. And if we can facilitate this type of discussion, I agree with Mrs. Bronk when she said that's I think that's part of our job.
It is.
All right, if we can facilitate it.
Yep.
If they want to tell us, forget it, we don't want to talk, what can we say? Or if they say they want to do it by themselves, what can we say? But there seems to be a lot of opinion around that the finance committee should have, at least participate in some form, even, this is not, it won't be a voting matter either. I mean, it's gonna be, we've got to come up with a strategic plan.
We're
If
all
we
gonna
can
lose.
help, we
We're all
should
gonna
be
lose.
doing
Yes.
so.
But I think we have a lot of accounting expertise and a lot of business expertise that might be able to
We do.
help.
And,
Right, might be able to help.
and we have the responsibility to the town members to try and work collectively.
Did you guys understand?
As a whole,
See?
not just me, but as a
I agree,
whole.
I agree.
My only comment to you is that I could either comment there, or I could wait the capital planning report, and I'll address some of the things that.
Oh, let's go to that, right, I think we did the
Yes.
budget to death, so, or, actually, it's still part of the budget review, capital planning, go ahead.
Last meeting was educational, in that Dr. Rabinovich came in with Jeff Sweat, and they talked about some of their difficulties, and Sam touched on them, and some observations. Jeff Sweat is particularly candid when he starts talking about these things, when he talks about, increases in the budget from the state have been consumed by healthcare, and he goes on. He has a lot of information to give, and if you listen carefully to him, comments. Manette forested $500K to do a study and look at a debt exclusion, and they say, well, all right, you're gonna get X amount back. Generally, the amount they get back applies to what the cost of the school is going to be, so you don't really actually get money back. They just play around with numbers and say, okay, this is what the school's cost you, this is what you should have had back from the study, and it reduces your cost in that direction. The high school roof, the gym's leaking, but there's other leaks into the rest of the building, so at this point, it's more logical to try and replace the whole roof.
Right.
Buses.
The roof.
The
B word.
The point on the buses was that if you go ahead with 10 buses, you're at $900,000, and that's 3 years. So then in the second year, you pick up 5 buses, and all of a sudden, you're up trying to pick 5 buses the second year, another 5. But the key cruncher is going to be your third year. Not only do you have your 900,000, but now your final payment comes due if you're going to buy the buses. That means that in the third year, it's going to get difficult, because that's a big payment. We've been through these somebody says $900,000, it's 900, 900, 900, and then there's that buyout. And that's where it gets difficult, because if you're having trouble getting 900,000 now, you think you're gonna have problems with the final payment to buy these buses. So it's not just 900K, it's the down the road.
To roll up.
And then you're into 5 buses into perpetuity. So, technology. One of the problems addressed by the principal, I think she was in Deacon's school, was the bandwidth that they need to support the iPads or the various things. Dr. Rubin was saying that he has 3,000 students in the school and he needs to replace 1,000 computers. Okay, so now you're talking like at 100 computers a year, 100,000 a year, again, forever. Then there was a discussion relevant to why the town were trying to get to using smart terminals versus computers, so that your software is up on your server and you're not having to worry about individual computers. Problem I have with this whole thing is, we have an info technology guy at the police department. We have our info technology guy at the town. His name's escaping. Matt O'Neill. And Matt's supposed to have an assistant, okay? Well, that was in that management letter 2 years ago, and he's still looking for an assistant, because it's not there. And then the school has their technology.
That's what I was gonna say, there's a third. Yeah.
So we have 3 people. One is dealing with the police, one is trying to do the whole town, and then we have one over at the school. Now, it seems to me that we've tried to put together something that would work for the town. And at this point, I think we're a couple $100,000 overrun because of structural deficiencies. Electric, a lot of other things that's supposedly going to be addressed, but the point is, until you can get the 3 of them into one room that have a meaningful discussion, because what I'm not hearing is, it becomes senseless to try and do some of this stuff if you don't have the bandwidth, okay? They don't want to seem to look at that. But, so in one school they're saying, no, they don't want the kids to bring in their pads, they don't want them to do this because it consumes bandwidth. Good. So it's telling me that we need a good answer for our infrastructure to the school and a long-term plan that says how we're going to address that. And I'm not hearing people say, okay, then we need to sit down and really address this. And that's causing me some distress, because don't talk to me about replacing computers or putting in smart terminals unless you've addressed what kind of infrastructure. Because once you open this up, whether you go to the iPads or whatever, once it's opened up, that means that all of this stuff is going to be in use within the school system. It's going to move building to building as the classes progress. How are we going to address the question? Because once that opens up, obviously people are going to have phones, they're going to have whatever, and the same issue comes to being. I'm not hearing an answer to this info processing issue, and I'm having difficulty conceptually even trying to support it unless I see an overall plan that the town says, yes, we can support that. And I'm not sure that Matt individually has the time to do this, because he's still in the same boat that he was in. I'm not saying that the problem is not solvable, I'm just saying that this is a problem because there is no simple solution that I'm going to replace computers, or I'm going to put in smart terminals, or I'm going to do bandwidth, we don't seem to have a coordinated plan. We were supposed to meet today. We are meeting on the 29th. We've switched our meeting times to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're having it on Wednesdays rather than Thursday mornings. So next meeting is going to be on the 29th. There's still some discussions about how much the capital planning budget is. Obviously, that is in the air. You know, we're looking at, well, that exactly is the problem is,
Yep.
we have so many needs, and we still can't define dollars. The only good thing that I can say out of this is that as each day goes by, we really do realize how bad the situation is.
Mhm.
At least we're talking about it, and I know that's the saddest thing that I can say is that we're talking about it, but we are collectively as a community realizing that we have given up maintenance of buildings, we've given up a lot of other things, and it doesn't work. Library director was in.
Then we'll have to deal with that.
But if they do, may I, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, you may.
But if they do, and it's the $84,000, great. All I want to do is tell me where they're gonna take the $84,000 from. If the town meeting passes it, because this is, you put these numbers in after the budget has been developed, after the capital planning has done its thing. And, okay, put it as a warrant article, but have the courtesy to say where you want to take it from, because
I'm just telling you.
and I understand that, Larry. They need to replace the window. They
Right.
need to replace, I mean, these are needs.
Have you seen the windows?
Oh, I have.
Okay, I've seen the windows. They need to replace the windows.
No argument. The point is,
Where you get the money?
they didn't even get into the hunt until after things had been prioritized.
I'm not gonna involve myself too deep in that, but there's been some log jams along the line that aren't their fault. They tried to get into the hunt very early and
It's-
were.
And I'm not faulting that. As I said, it's a learning curve. And even if they'd gotten in on early on the hunt, they didn't have estimates of how much they were gonna need until basically into December. So,
Again,
you know, for them, it's lose-lose no matter how they go at it. I mean,
It's just
it's not
flabbergasting to me, I'm sorry.
And this is, yeah, and it is to me too, because here we are, we're talking about schools, we're talking about our libraries, which to me are fundamental buildings you need to have in a town. And we're sitting here talking about the fact that we don't have any money and they need repair, and there's nothing we can do. And it's the most helpless feeling.
And then you want us to take another building.
But
Well,
Well,
If I-
all right, go ahead.
sooner or later, we have to do it, and we know, no
Sure.
matter what happens, Larry, it means people.
It
But if it
may-
means people, it doesn't help, because it takes 2 years to filter out, because we pay our unemployment. So, we can talk debt exclusions, you can talk overrides, but they're just one of the many problems the town's got. I'm done.
okay, I'm not gonna soapbox tonight, I'm just
No,
not.
I'd like to avoid the soapbox. One of the other reasons why I would like to request to talk to the selectmen as well is on the 25th of January, the town administrator did send a 5-year budget projection
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
to the town clerk. Now, he was supposed to put the plan in, and I think he checked it out and did it as a projection, because he didn't have to balance it. And he was working off the December 15th number, saying for the year 2013, we would have, we would balance the budget. However, looking at the revenue trends and the expense trends, he's looking at 2014 as being a $400,000 deficit, no capital items. He's looking at, well, except like leases on the.
More defibrillators.
No, that's not in there.
That's because we're all having heart attacks.
It's gonna be,
All right, 2014 is 400,000, no capital items to really to speak of, not to address our infrastructure problems. 2015 is a $1.2 million deficit. 2016 is a it's 2.0 million, and 2017 is 2.9 million. That's why I need a motion to say that I should send a letter or request to both of those departments that we
I
sit
move
down and have.
that we send a letter. We
And
got
I
it.
second.
Boy, will I
Any
ever.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
6-0. I also need a motion to request that the school committee meet with us to discuss this year's potential budget.
So moved. Second.
Everybody got that? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Again, 6-0. Any other liaison reports?
Yes.
I was afraid of that. Go ahead.
Oh, you know what? I'm not gonna tell you that. I'm just not gonna tell you. No, I'm done.
All right, go ahead. We've got 15 more minutes.
Well, this is not, first off, now that you've given me the recycle committee, I think Sam.
Thank you very much for your patience.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion adjourns 5-0.
I support the committee, yes, I do.
0.
I don't support it.